Christian's locked in. Call it cutthroat, call it whatever you want to, but this is Survivor. And Christian isn't just surviving, he's thriving. Okay folks, welcome back to another episode of Talking Tribal. This week, it's episode 4 of season 50 of Survivor. Hot off the press, the David versus Goliath trio has cracked. I didn't see that coming. I'm putting my hands up straight away. I lured myself into a trap believing that those three would stick together. I also, just like Mike, overestimated the value of the friendship that Christian and Angelina have within Mike. I'm a huge fan of The White Lotus on HBO. And I watched Angelina do a cameo in season 2 in Italy. And then lo and behold, season 3, Christian did a cameo in Thailand. And, you know, to fly somebody across to the other side of the world to be in one of the biggest shows on TV, you'd think there was something there, right? You'd think there was something in the relationship. Christian just proved to me he's not there to make friends. He's okay with losing friends. He's locked in, and his eyes are locked in on that $1 million to take home to his wife and to his newborn baby to give them as much as he can. Christian's locked in. Call it cutthroat, call it whatever you want to, but this is Survivor. And Christian isn't just surviving, he's thriving. But, of course, before we get to Tribal Council, we've got a full episode's worth to catch up on. So let's throw it right back to the beginning, where we began with the New Sealer tribe, and there's a talent show going on. On the judging panel, we have Camilla, Dee, and Sari, and our first act of the night is Rick Devens. Rick's doing this juggling act that was... I could get up here and pretend it was great. It wasn't... He tried though, and trying matters sometimes. Yeah. Rizzo was quick to steal the spotlight though when he was up next, and he did his little impression of Mickey Mouse. He reminded me of my younger brother when he did that, because my brother also does a corker of a Mickey Mouse impression. And, you know, I say younger brother, you know, there's like, I'm 23, he's 22, it's close between us, but he does a corker of a Mickey Mouse impression, and I don't know, Rizzo reminded me of him there, and it was a good impression, but I am slightly biased, and I'm going to say that my brother's is better. And then the camp almost got their own WWE match when Jonathan basically... It was so funny. He was standing there saying, "Hey, I'm Jonathan from Alabama," and then Charlie comes in and he does this. He snaps this stick on him, and it looks like an action movie. And then Jonathan picks him up like a WWE wrestler about to slam someone down, and he did. It was hilarious. But for me, the best part of the talent show wasn't actually the talent. It was when Charlie turned around and he started doing this bit. You know, who are you? Like, he was looking at the judges and going, "Who are you to judge us? Sitting in your ivory tower, you said dance," and it was so funny. And then he like took his buff off and flung it as if he was doing a big protest. I adore Charlie. Can we just take a moment just to say how wonderful Charlie is? You know, he's got his mind so freaking fixated on trying to take Rizzo out because Rizzo reminds him of Maria and how Maria didn't vote for him at the end, in the parallel that he found out that Rizzo's closest ally in 49 was the wonderful Sophie B, and of course Rizzo ended up voting for Savannah to win, and Charlie correlates that with his trauma with Maria from his season, and as a result, Charlie is becoming like a dog with a bone, saying, "I gotta get Rizzo out, I'm gonna blindside him, and this could come back to bite him in the ass." But I wish he would just take his head out of there for a second, because God, I love Charlie, and he's so wonderful on every single level. I feel like I would be best friends with him, and I just love him. I love Charlie, what can I say? We'll take a little gander over to the Carlo tribe now. Gander, walk, whatever you want to call it. I'm gonna take a gander, a slow gander. I'm growing, and this is just me, right? You know, we've all got our different opinions on the players. You might love somebody that I don't love, vice versa. Genevieve's getting on my nerves, folks. And I don't dislike Genevieve, but I love Aubry. And Genevieve is making it her primary mission in this game to end Aubrey Bracco's life. That sounded so much more intense than it actually is. But I take Survivor very seriously, and so does Aubry. I loved watching Aubry in her first season in Ko Rong. She came out the gates a little, she was overwhelmed. I remember her crying in the shack, and then she turned into this powerhouse who is, in my opinion, one of the greatest legends of the entire franchise. And, she did very, very back-to-back you know what I mean? Like, she went back home, flew straight back out to Fiji to play again, not just once but twice. There was a little break between seasons, because we see as viewers there is breaks between the names of seasons, and Survivor Ko Rong might not look as close to Game Changers as it did in person. I'm pretty sure she spent the summer of 2016 on the beach, she spent the summer of 2017 on the beach, and I believe the summer of 2019, I'm going to say. No, Edge of Extinction was, hey, walk with me as I'm trying to nerd out. I think she spent it was 2015, 2016 and 2018, I'm going to say, is what she spent on the beach. Point is, 3 summers spent on a beach is a lot of time, and she got pretty burnt out, I remember when she returned for Edge of Extinction, and she was voted out pretty early, then had to go through that hellish landscape of extinction for so many days, and she got voted out with an idol. That crushes the soul. Aubrey's had a break this time and she's became a mother in the time as well. Like, a lot has happened since Aubry last played, and my biggest fear coming into this season for Aubry was that history would repeat itself and she'd be voted out really early. If Genevieve gets her way, that will happen. Aubry is haunted, though, by the fact that she was voted out with an idol last time, so she's like hyper aware. When you make like the slightest noise, you see an animal in the wild and then you make the slightest noise and the ears go. Aubrey's like that. She's like that around everything. She's fully aware. She's in tune with the fact, and she said it. I have an idol, and I'm not afraid to use it, and I'm not afraid to go look for another one as well. So she tried. She tried to go look for another one, but lo and behold, 4 minutes after she left the camp, Aubry! Where are you, Aubry? We're all looking for you, Aubry. We miss you so much. It wasn't exactly that, but it had that energy. Genevieve was trying to disguise this. Aubry, where are you? She was trying to disguise it as a caring thing. We're all looking for you. Genevieve couldn't give 2 hoots. She just didn't want Aubry to find an idol. And it's funny because I always find myself rooting for the person who's looking for the idol in those situations, because something that happens, not every season, but quite a lot of seasons, is everybody likes to pin all the faults of the tribe, or, they become so laser focused on one person. I'm thinking of Rick Devens on Edge of Extinction, that they lose sight of their own game, where it's almost like nobody's allowed to leave camp, and this herd mentality is, no, if this person goes, if this person disappears, we gotta get him out, right? We can't let them get too far. So Aubry has to disguise it as, I was just trying to find a minute for myself. It's very hard to find that in this game, just taking a minute to breathe and decompress and find a minute alone. You have to say that, because otherwise they're going to be like a dog with a chew toy. They will be like, okay, Aubry was looking for an idol, we have to get Aubry out. Okay, by the way, did I mention we have to get Aubry out? I don't think I've spent the first 3 episodes saying we have to get Aubry out. It's very clear what Genevieve's motive is this time, and I don't want things to go smoothly. I want Aubry to give these players something to step their game up with, because a lot of these people haven't actually been to Tribal Council yet. So they're going off this in their mind. It's fine. We go to Tribal, we get rid of Aubry, everything should be fine, and then we get it back into the game when we head back to camp. Shake it up. Aubry plays the idol, everyone goes, craps their pants, and then they're going to have to rework it. Because do you know what they're doing right now? Putting all the eggs in the Aubry basket. They're about to find out very soon, in my opinion, that it's not going to work. Because I will once again reiterate, Aubry has an idol, and she's not afraid to use it. Despite all of Aubry's efforts, it wasn't her who found the idol. It was Genevieve. Genevieve found a second Billie Eilish boomerang idol. Now, I will say something for sure. If I was Genevieve, and these boomerang idols help me end up getting the win. You know, if Ozzy gets voted out and the boomerang goes back to Genevieve, and then she ends up giving this one to Rizzo. If Rizzo goes and the boomerang goes back to her, Genevieve is sat on a throne with 2 idols. 2 idols! That's a lot. That's a lot of power in this game. That's OP. You know, it's not one of the, advantages of, well, if you do this and then you lose your vote at Tribal Council, but also if you then decide at Tribal Council to play your shot in the dark, then the idol becomes an idol nullifier. And then if you manage to successfully nullify someone's idol, you get 3 extra votes. But, you know what I mean? It's not one of those, lack of better word, bullshit advantages. It's an actual legit idol. It's 2 idols that you've got right there, and you say, hey, you're going to keep me safe. Great! Great! I don't have to run it up the corporate ladder to lose half a vote in the process and then turn it into an idol nullifier. Thanks, producers. Sometimes, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But yes, like I said, Genevieve sent this boomerang idol. Sorry, I don't want to get done for slander, so I need to say the full thing. The Billie Eilish boomerang idol was sent to Rizzo with the intent of making him feel comfortable so that if she was to turn around and take out Rizzo, she can get that idol back. And I think that was very smart of Genevieve. She bartered with these. It wasn't her intention in the first place because she didn't know she was going to find 2 Billie Eilish boomerang idols. She just felt, this one here I'm going to use for favour in the group because I'm not in a great position right now. I'll remind everybody that Genevieve came into this season without anybody from her season, without any connections. So she did incredibly well on her first initial Vatu tribe to get herself into almost the prime position on the tribe. Nobody wanted to take Genevieve out apart from Aubry. Genevieve was calling the shots. She was like this Machiavellian Don saying, right, Aubry's gone, let's search through her bag. She did very, very well to maneuver herself from a position of no connections to that. And I think using the Billie Eilish boomerang idol to create trust amongst the group was brilliant. So when she finds this second one, she has no inkling or no inclination or want to reveal this one. Because this time, you can use this one to your own personal advantage. It's genius, because everyone's thinking, oh yeah, she's found the first one. She's not going to find a second one. What if she turns around now, at the end? She's able to go, I didn't find 1 Billie Eilish boomerang idol, but I found 2 Billie Eilish boomerang idols. And I use them to the best of my advantage. They boomerang back to me, hopefully. It'll be a story that she can tell. But Genevieve is doing, and I don't understate this right now, phenomenally. I think Genevieve's in a fantastic position. I think she's got one of the biggest threats, the biggest targets on her back right now, or that she should at least. Aubry sees it. But yeah, I think right now, if there was a, there's a, we have something in the UK called a snap election. I'm sure there's a different phrase for it in the US. Hell, I live in the US right now. I should be learning that. Somebody tell me that. A snap election. And I think if there was a snap tribal council right now, it is what it says on the tin, it happens immediately. If there was a snap final tribal council right now, Genevieve would have one of the best cases to win. There isn't. That's not the game. But if there was, yeah. If we're stacking up threats right now, I think Christian's at the top. Genevieve close behind. She's got a resume. There's a big old game left to be played. We haven't even hit the merge yet. And something I'm trying to figure out in my mind, walk with me as well, folks. I believe there's about 18 days left. Before last night, there was 18 days left. And exactly 20 people. There's 19 now. I believe 17 or 16 days left. I'm just going to do this with my chin. Is it going to be... There has to be several double tribals, right? I know there's going to be one next week. I'm wondering, and I said this last night to my wonderful spouse Sam last night, imagine if they did 2 votes at every tribal council. I can't tell if I like that or loathe this. I think it's a bit of both, because I like the idea of a fresh game mechanic in the fact that you would have to go into tribal planning 2 votes, because that you would have to navigate that so bloody carefully. Because you'd have to... The top dogs would come out on top, right? Because for your second vote to work, your first vote has to work as well. For all those components to stay in the game and for you not to get blindsided, so you have those components to help you in the second vote. You know, there would be... It's a whole thing. And that, as I'm saying it right now, I feel a bit like... I don't know. But again, I'm just theorizing because there are way more people than there are days left. The game used to be something where somebody would get voted out every 3 days. Now more than one person has to get voted out every day to get down to brass tacks. Interested to see how that plays out. But yes, like I said, hell of a lot of game left to be played, and I think Christian and Genevieve right now are the top target, are the top threats with the biggest target, or should have the biggest targets on their back. But if there was a snap final tribal council right now, it's Genevieve or Christian's for the taking. Now, the episode got very, very quickly into immunity and reward. Not any old reward. It was a big reward in the form of one of the highest selling country music stars of all time. Jeff really saw that out. Jeff loves singing, doesn't he? It's so funny. So, oh my God. I've got a funny story to tell here from something I saw this week. When Jeff rapped last week... Yeah, I still haven't forgotten that. I had a nightmare last night. This isn't the first time Jeff has professed his love for rap. It's just spilling out now. I think just being a performer. Jeff loves performing. He loved rapping last week. I don't know if anyone saw him on Jimmy Fallon about a month ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, where he was doing the pre-season, you know, Survivor 50's coming up, everybody watch it. Then Jimmy Fallon pretends like he's seen every season. I think he's a fan, but I don't think he's seen every single season. I think he's seen maybe like Heroes versus Villains and All Stars, so he's like, oh my God, Boston, Rob, Sandra, and then he pretends he knows the rest. But I don't know how to describe this. He got off at the end and he did his new single, you know, come and get it, take what's yours, you want it bad, yeah, well, you gotta want it more. I was like, he did that, and then I discovered that I saw this week. Who remembers Andrea from Survivor? She was on Redemption Island, was her first season, the season that Boston Rob came through. She was also on Cara Moen, Fans vs. Favourites. And then she finally returned for Game Changers. And I saw Andrea do an interview this week where she was saying, I don't know if it was a fever dream in my head, because Survivor's this, you know... I like thinking of going to Survivor as... We've all seen Squid Game, right? All of us know the concept of Squid Game. And I always think for the folks who, you know, they do the first game, they make it through red light, green light, and then they press the button, say end the game, and then they get taken back home. It must feel like a fever dream that you were on this island playing this crazy game. And I think Survivor's exactly the same. I fully understand why Andrea had this moment of, did I make this up in my head? Or was it the truth? So she turned around and said that off the back of season 21, Nicaragua, there had been a few people who went, I'm done, I'm quitting the game, yada, yada, yada. So basically when they brought the Redemption Island cast out, Jeff wanted to get them all pumped up. So what he did, apparently, was he brought this big boom box out, right? This is still 2011 or 12 at this point. So boom boxes are all the rage still. Apparently. and he presses play, and Lose Yourself by Eminem comes on. And he cranks it up, and he starts, rapping along to it, and he wants to get everybody in a circle, as if it's, the late night, you're at a 90s house party, everyone's around the boombox, bopping out to Eminem to try and hype everybody up at the game. He did this in order to get people not to quit. I guess it worked. But Andrea was questioning, did this even happen? Was this real? Or did I make this up in my mind? And it was almost like this memory was triggered when Jeff decided to come out last week on episode 3 of Survivor 50 and started rapping. And I thought that was a fascinating story from Andrea that I wanted to share this week. And it turns out it was true. It wasn't made up in her head. Natalie Tenorelli, finalist of Survivor Redemption Island, turns around and says, Andrea, you didn't make that up. And she vouched for it. So yeah, there's a little bit more Survivor lore for us Survivor junkies out there. Jeff Probst boomboxed Eminem ahead of Redemption Island to get the cast very hype. Circle of them all, giving it all that. So they wouldn't quit Redemption Island. Yeah. Jeff's a host and a half, isn't he? The reward this episode, like I said, was unlike any other reward. It actually took me back to the early seasons. It wasn't just a trip to the sanctuary. Winners get a trip to the sanctuary. Oh, by the way, the winners get a trip to the sanctuary and they're going to eat some good meat. There's variety. It gets dull after a while. It's like anything, no matter what show you're watching. They have to change it up a bit or it gets predictable. And, I got a bit sick of how every single bloody reward in the new era was just, we're going to the sanctuary. Enjoy some meat, guys. Meat's great. And so is the sanctuary. But, for TV and entertainment purposes, you want something a little bit more that makes you go, oh, I'm looking up now and I don't just want to go on my phone. And going into this season, I'm going to put my hands up right now. I was thinking, oh, God, with all this celebrity involvement. I really was, genuinely. I was thinking, why? This isn't Survivor. But I'm starting to see that the game is evolving. I don't know if I'm drinking Jeff Kool-Aid. Maybe I am. Don't get me wrong, I'm not blindly following it and saying this is incredible, but I'm starting to understand some of Jeff's vision a bit more. I still think there's definite things where I'm like, come on. Because, let's be real, I really enjoyed the Zac Brown performance where, he sat down with the Carlo tribe because they were lucky enough to win this challenge. So they got immunity as well as the reward with Zac Brown. Seela, of course, just managed to come through, get immunity, but they didn't get Zac Brown. But the Carlo tribe did get Zac Brown. And I hadn't heard of Zac Brown. Well, I'd heard of Zac Brown, but I didn't know him. I didn't know his music. I hadn't heard any of his music before. But, you hear a name sometimes and, you don't necessarily know too much about them. But you go, oh, yeah, I've heard of that person. Zac Brown was that person to me. And I love country music. Old school country music. You open my Spotify, I got Dolly Parton in there. I got Glenn Campbell. I got Kenny Rogers. I like the classics. Johnny Cash. Classic country for me. I get a bit more hasty when it comes to more modern country, but I do think country music is phenomenal overall. So I really enjoyed listening to Zac Brown. It reminded me of the old school Survivor seasons where you'd go off on this adventure. It felt like an adventure, right? A once in a lifetime story that you're going to be able to tell your family one day. I think Coach is going to return for his 17th season on Survivor 94. And, he'll have all these young members of the tribe around the tribal council and, he'll sit there and he'll tell them about the time that he was abandoned on a desert island in Fiji. And one of the biggest country music stars in the world came along and serenaded them. Everyone's going to go, Coach, you're full of shit. But we'll know that it was the truth. It's one of those... It was a Coach moment. I felt as soon as I saw Carlo Tribe, I thought, Coach is going to tell this story for the rest of his life. And I love that. I really do. It felt like an adventure. Sometimes trying something new, like I said before, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But if it is broke, like going to the sanctuary every single time. Tweak it. You know, I think as fans of anything long term, we often freak out when there's a big drastic change. But then sometimes if you go in with an open mind, or more of an open mind than you usually do, then you enjoy it more. And I did. I enjoyed this Zac Brown thing, and I'm kind of thinking to myself, I want more variety in reward challenges now. It's set a bar. I put a bar up here now. They got to keep it there. More than just meet at the sanctuary. We need more Zac Brown kind of stuff. That, you know, I ain't worried about it song that he played. I really enjoyed that. You know, it was like, I was stuck in my head. I am worried about it. I am worried about it. It was stuck in my head still. And I thought that was a really charming song. And you could see how it touched every single one of those people there. Colby had tears in his eyes. Coach has tears in his eyes. Tiffany had tears. You know, everybody. Every single person from all the way from Survivor Season 2 all the way up to the new era, they had this moment of coming together and just, it was just beautiful. I really, beautiful. That's what I'd call it. I thought it was wonderful. And not only that, can we just applaud Zac Brown for a second? Because usually I think when TV shows go, oh, we've got this celebrity coming in to do a cameo this week, or, you know, they're doing some kind of promo. You know, they show up and go, hi, everybody, I'm Zac Brown. I've got a new album coming out, and I'm off. Bye. Zac got stuck in. My guy went out into the ocean and spearheaded a fish that wouldn't even fit on this screen right now. He was cool. And what I also loved was how he said, you know, Survivor is everything to me. I watch it with my kids. We've binge watched it week after week after week, you know. When I'm eventually a dad, that's gonna be me. I don't know. It spoke to me simply. I was thinking, yeah. When I'm eventually a dad, and me and Sam have kids. You know, I'm gonna be sat there, going, repeat. Okay, back to Borneo. Okay, let's start Borneo again. Boom. You know, all the way around, because, you know, I want to share my love of the game with my future kids as well. And Zac does that with his kids, and I thought, yeah, I like that. I liked it a lot. I just thought it was really sweet. And he put his money where his mouth is. He didn't just sit there and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. Nah. He went out on the ocean and he caught some fish. He had a lovely grill going. I thought, oh, this man knows what he's doing. He knows how to cook his fish. He knows how to cook his food. He knows how to catch the fish. He knows how to serenade these people. He gave them a package and a half. That sounded like something else. A package and a half in the form of music and food. He nourished the mind, he nourished the belly, and he nourished the soul. Let's go, Zac Brown! Now, with the Vatu tribe having to head to tribal council, all hands were on deck when it came to strategy over on the Vatu beach. And I'm going to start this segment off by saying I'm blown away by what happened at Vatu. I released a video last week detailing my predictions for, you know, if each tribe is the next to go to tribal, who is going to be eliminated. Who knows if my Carlo and Sela predictions turn out to be right. But if my Vatu predictions are anything to go by, my Carlo and Sela predictions should be thrown in the trash, because, oh my god, I butchered it. Isn't that the fun, though, in predictions and analysis? You know... Yeah, I'm trying to give myself a break here to excuse the atrocious prediction I had of that Aussie would be the one who would be eliminated. I was so wrong. Stick with me, folks. I'm going to get one eventually. Hey, let me off. I predicted from almost episode 1 last season that Savannah would win the game. And guess who won the game? I'm just going to, every single time I mess up on a prediction, I'm just going to dust out that, hey, look at this. I guess Savannah was going to be the winner from episode 1. Makes me feel better, at least. But wow, the David versus Goliath trio cracked. Do you know, not only did I predict Aussie would be the boot, I embarrassingly put Mike White at the top of the tribe. Which I think he was. I do think he was. But I think Christian was the one who got me there. I didn't expect him to turn on Mike and do that. Do I think he made the right move? Yes. Yeah, I did. I love Mike White. I love The White Lotus. Easily in my top 5 television shows. But I think Christian made the right move. Let's talk about it. So, the initial idea was that the tribe needed to get Angelina out. This was a compromise that Ozzy made last week when, he wanted Angelina out last week. But then Emily said, look, we got to do Q this week. If we take out Q this week, then we can get Angelina next week. So naturally, Ozzy was going, okay, Angelina. And that's one prediction I did make actually as well. I said, Ozzy saying, okay, fine, we'll do Angelina next week, I thought was a bit pathetic because I thought, I don't even know if they're going to have the numbers to get rid of Angelina, and I was right. I think Ozzy is not good at the game at all. And I know Ozzy's got a lot of fanboys and fangirls, fan people out there, but I think Ozzy's great for the iconography of Survivor. But I do think you'd be kidding yourself if we were to say that he's actually good at the game. Because he's not. These last few weeks have proved it time and time again. He gave one of his advantages to the biggest threat in the game. Call it loyalty, I call it stupidity. He gave his extra vote to Sari. And then, this, oh, please can we get Angelina out? And then one of his closest allies, Q, gets the boot. Can we please get Angelina out? And then one of his closest allies, Mike White, gets voted out. He knew Mike out the game. That's how close he was to Mike. Nothing has gone his way so far, really. He let Coach dupe him again. This man's played with Coach. He's got that upper hand that a lot of these people don't. He's played with Coach. This man who preaches honour and integrity all the time, but lives the opposite way. The biggest con people in life are the people who preach certain things but don't actually live that way. But it's less harmful when it's a game, not real life. And that's why it's fun with Coach. But Coach wasn't going to change, And Coach didn't promise to leave that key on the floor. But Ozzy's played with this man. He's been betrayed by this man. And he once again thought that Coach was just going to roll over and be honour and integrity. There's a pattern of behaviour with Ozzy here. He's not very good at the game. Just assessing. Just 50 alone. Just season 50 alone says it all. So, it's quickly becoming easy for all these players to go, it's fine to leave Ozzy in the dark. He's not going to do shit. He can't turn it around. It's Ozzy. And he's becoming a bit of a doormat in this game. Everyone goes, yeah, it's Ozzy. He's great. He can get us fish, but we don't really need to loop him in on the vote because he's not really capable of strategy. And I think that's what happened again with him this week. So it was kind of like, let's push Ozzy to the side because Christian saw a power vacuum. He saw a power vacuum there where Mike was trying to bail Angelina out the crap. And I thought it was really funny though when Mike had this line where he was like, I do not know why it's became my mission in life to save Angelina, but here we go again. It's the history repeating itself from David versus Goliath. And Mike's sticking his neck out and he's talking to Christian saying, I think we need to take out Emily Flippin. And then Christian, of course, doesn't want Emily out because he's actually allied with her. It feels like there has been a band-aid put on the boo-boo from last week with the idol blunder where Emily's going, hey, everybody, Christian said this. It seems like they mend fences a bit. And it seems like Christian was more threatened by the fact that Mike was trying to, make him an offer he couldn't refuse. So I didn't expect them to turn because, like I said at the beginning, Mike has put Christian into a White Lotus season. So, whether there is a friendship there or not, I think you're going to feel a little bit butthurt when you've done that. I even saw Mike on CBS Mornings where he was getting interviewed and he said it himself. If y'all didn't catch it, there was one line that I just wanted to share with everybody. He said, I overestimated the depth of the relationships I had with certain people. That to me tells me that he was shocked and he didn't expect. He thought Christian was by his side. So Christian, of course, has this big brain moment, as he always does, where he goes, all right, Ozzy Ozzy's over there. He's trying to get a cameo in the White Lotus. That was so obvious from a mile away. Like, wasn't it? This all of a sudden turn where Ozzy's got Emily as his right-hand woman, but then he's like, no, but still, I want to be close to Mike. Get me close to Mike. Why, Ozzy? Oh, I hear season 4 of the White Lotus is coming up. Ozzy is so see-through in that regard. Christian clocked him. He clocked him into next week. He 100% wanted a cameo in the White Lotus, and that's why he wanted to get close to him. And again, it just speaks to Ozzy's game. He doesn't play for himself. He's trying to get a cameo in the White Lotus. Wouldn't we all? But if I was on Survivor, geez, I mean, that's second priority, right? Still a priority. I'd love to be on the White Lotus. But it's second to actually advancing my position in the game. And Christian knew that, so he knew Ozzy would not be voting for Mike White. That's one vote for Angelina. Boom. Mike White and Angelina could get together and just, they'd be going for Emily, which leaves 2, and then that's where he saw the power vacuum. I scoop up Stephanie, and then I grab Emily, and then that's 3. And then the vote, you don't have to have 4 to be majority. It doesn't have to be 3-3. Split the votes, and you can take majority with 3. 3, 2, 1. 3 being Mike, 2 being Emily, and 1 being Angelina. Which, of course, puts Christian now at the top of the tribe because he succeeded. Whoa. That was a blindside and a half. Mike was surprised. And so was I. I think Mike got a bit too big for his boots. And I don't like talking bad about Mike White because I adore him and I view him as a genius. People are going to go, genius? Come on, he hasn't, he didn't find this new science. He didn't, create world peace. He didn't, geniuses can come in all sorts of shapes or forms. And to me, one of the best arts in life is storytelling. And Mike White is a master at it. You can move people with a story more than you can move people with a fact. With stone cold hard facts. Stories move the wheel of time. History. What's history? Stories. And Mike White presents stories in a way where your mind goes, if you haven't seen The White Lotus, now is the time where I say, hey, after you've enjoyed this video and you've finished your coffee or whatever you're enjoying, if you're eating food while you're watching this, listen, Tom's orders right now. I want you to take it easy for the rest of the day, if you can. Or at least take it easy for the next hour. I want you to put on The White Lotus and understand what I mean. That show is marvellous, and Mike White is a hell of a storyteller. But I do think the storyteller got a little bit out of his depth because he was sitting at tribal council basically saying, so, in my line of work, it's my job to essentially bullshit people. And say, hey, you need my story, you need my script. Because think about it. Mike didn't have The White Lotus on TV until he proved to HBO this is a show worth having on TV. We all know it is now because it's phenomenal. But for a long duration of time, that's how it goes with writers. People who work in writing, they have to go, I've made this script and you need it. Because, these big companies, they're not just going to doss out money for the sake of it. They need to doss out money on things that they're going to make money on. That's capitalism. That's the world, right? So Mike was saying, I have to be this sort of con man, Because even though I know it's going to be great, I have to prove, I have to convince, I have to persuade the big man, the big guys to go, okay, we'll take a gamble on that. He should have kept that to himself. He's right. He's so right. He's 100% right. That's the game of life, and he's playing it. But you don't say it out loud in a game like Survivor. You keep that stuff to yourself. And he didn't. It started to feel like not the ego, but the confidence. The confidence started to overspill a little bit. To the point where it felt like, listen, if you're at the bottom of the tribe, you do not go on like that at tribal. You're rubbing salt in the wound, right? You sit there like a deer in the headlights and you hope for the best. Stephanie, I think, is an example of that. Stephanie was on the bottom of the tribe, and there wasn't really much place for her to manoeuvre. She kept pretty much stum for all of tribal council, said the right things at the right time. Nobody's thinking, oh God, Stephanie, we need to get her out. Mike was almost like this don at the table saying, he's summoning the people at the table, and this is almost explaining the way the operation works. Big mistake, Mike. I think the nail was in the coffin before he did that, but it told me that had he made it back to camp, his days were limited, because I think he got a bit ahead of himself. And it's funny because when we think about his game on David versus Goliath, let's take ourselves back to that final three. Mike White, Angelina, and Nick Wilson. We, of course, know that Nick went on to win the game and then appear in Winners at War. But there is always the question, did the right person win? I am of the belief that yes, if you win, you win. I think Boston Rob said it best to Michelle in Winners at War. Michelle, of course, one of the more controversial winners of all time. She knows that. She's discussed that. That's a touchy subject for her. She was talking to Boston Rob about how when I won my season, people said I didn't deserve it. People said it was controversial, right? Because Aubry lost. Aubry lost that season. And a lot of people felt Aubry deserved the win. And I think that's two separate things. Because Boston Rob did turn around and say, listen, if you win, you win. It doesn't matter. And Boston Rob, I think, is qualified to say that because he's been on the losing end. He lost to his future wife. His fiancée. He made Amber his fiancée right as the votes were about to be read. And Boston Rob, he's been pre-merge, and then he goes on to win. Then he's on the jury, He's been in every position of the game you can be in. So I do think he's qualified to say that. I do think if you win, you win is a thing, you win. I completely agree with that. But I do also think there is a thing where you go, it would have been great if that person won. Aubry's one of them for me. I do think Aubry would have been a better winner than Michelle, but I do think Michelle deserved the win. Two things exist at once. I think Mike White would have been a better winner than Nick, but I also think Nick deserved the win. So I think getting Mike out was a great move. Mike has proven time and time again that he knows how to manage people. Being a producer in Hollywood, being a writer in Hollywood, you got to know how to manage all these big people, especially when you've got these big ensemble casts like the White Lotus. There's lots of egos in there, lots of people wanting to get their screen time, advance their career. I'm sure there's lovely people there as well, but I'm sure there's people who are bloody nightmares. And Mike has to know how to navigate people like that. I think Mike is too aware of how good he is at that, and that's how it spilled out at Tribal Council. But Christian big brain in that and realising, okay, Mike got further than me last time. Mike was almost the death of me last time. I need to get him before he gets me. And let's be real, I think Angelina would have been a soldier for Mike the whole way. Angelina's going to be pissed next week when she gets back to camp, but she's also not going to have anywhere to go but back to Christian. Christian's moulding this game into the palm of his hands. He's got Rick over on the Sealer tribe. He's got Emily on this tribe. Angelina's going to come crawling back to him here. And he has this charm that I'm sure if he gets to the merge, people are going to go, oh my God, you're wonderful, Christian. And if there are enough people like that he can hide behind, because the problem with him on David versus Goliath was he was the most charismatic person at the merge, and everyone fell head over heels for him, and that's why they wanted to get him out. His own ally, Gabby. We need to talk about what Mike did about Gabby in a second as well. But if there are people like Sari there, if there are people like Rick Devons, like Dee, like Charlie, the Riz God, all these big personalities, and Christian's going to be in good company. It's going to give him more agency in this merge than he had in David versus Goliath. Because there were a few people who were a bit meh at the merge in David versus Goliath. And I say a few because that merge was phenomenal. One of my favourite merges ever. But that was Christian's problem. He didn't have anyone to hide behind. This time, he can have people to hide behind. And I think removing Mike out the situation gave him more agency. And I really think, Angelina's chaotic as hell. And it's really going to determine next week, is she going to come back to Christian or is she going to go ape? And is she going to go, I have to get revenge for my buddy Mike? Because I do think Angelina and Mike were tighter than either of them were with Christian. So I'm fascinated to see Angelina's reaction. That's going to be the thing I'm looking forward to the most next week. is Christian going to be able to take her under our wing? Because then we'll see even more the impact of Christian's move. Was it a good one or a bad one? I think they're a good one. There's more advantages to his move than there are disadvantages. I think there's both, but we'll see. It's really, I think, how Angelina reacts and what she does next is gonna impact Christian the most. But we'll see. Now let's talk about how Mike played on Christian's emotions from the previous season. With any returning season, every single person has this thing in the back of their mind that terrifies the crap out of them, because it haunted them. It's why they lost the game last time. I think of... I'm thinking of every All-Star season, to be honest, of people who've haunted them in the past. Let's think of All-Stars to start off with. I remember how bitter that jury was. I'm thinking of Lex, and I adore Lex. I really do, and I would love to see Lex play in New Era. Oh my God, please! Can we start a campaign, bring back Lex? God, man, he was great. He was bitter in All-Stars, but he was great. I know for a fact if Lex returned, he'd be crapping his pants again because of what Boston Rob did to him on All-Stars. He was so annoyed about that. He was so annoyed that he said, keep Amber safe and I'll keep you safe. So what did Lex do? He kept Amber safe at the tribe swap. And then Boston Rob betrayed Lex and sent him out the door. Lex was so hurt about that. And I think that would still hurt him if he was to return now. He'd be having that thing in the back of his mind. Oh my God, what if someone betrayed me like Boston Rob did? Much like Charlie. What if Rizzo does this, just like Maria did? These things play a massive factor in how we view the game. And Christian's soft spot is what Mike found and exploited. It's evil. My God, it's evil. I say with a grown smile on my face. But I love that Survivor provides this space for the evil to come out a little bit, in a way where it's not actually... We've all signed up for this, right? Everyone's feelings are going to get hurt, and that's awful. It is. It's tough, but everyone signed up for it, and it's fair game at that point. And Mike is despicable for doing that. Despicable in a genius way. He literally found the one thing that haunted Christian the most from his season, which was... And I hadn't forgotten that either, because it was a big moment on David vs. Goliath, where Gabby turned around and betrayed him. God, I was annoyed at Gabby for that. I liked Gabby, though. I still follow Gabby on social media. I still liked Gabby. And it's great, because, Gabby and Christian are still friends now. I literally saw on Instagram yesterday, Gabby was hanging out with Christian, his lovely wife, and new baby Hubicki, And Davey was also there. Davey's wonderful. Davey was awesome. So Davey and Gabby were hanging out with Christian. So, I'm sure there's still some feelings there, but they've by and large got over it. But these things don't necessarily leave you. It's one thing on a personal level being cool with someone, but when someone did that to you inside this game with such high stakes, you are going to hold this in your heart for a while. Understandably. So Mike went in there like a surgeon and said, okay, what's Christian's weak spot? Oh, there it is. It's Gabby. How do I poke and prod this? I am going to liken Emily Flippin to Gabby to play on Christian's emotions. Christian big-brained it, though. He could have fallen victim to it and done exactly what Mike wanted him to and been like, yeah, you're so right. And Mike would have gotten his way. But Christian realised that Mike was trying to manipulate him. And Christian went, I'm not having any of that. Go Christian! Yes, sorry, I can't. I gotta have a moment to celebrate. This is why it's so hard with season 50, because I love everyone. Mostly everyone. I love mostly everyone. So I am finding it like, say if Mike's doing something amazing, I'll go, oh my God, Mike's Godfather in it. This is amazing. But Christian's at the receiving end of it. And then I'm like, oh my God, Christian's getting back against Mike. Oh my God, but Mike's at the receiving end of it. It's a celebration, but also a funeral every single episode. But I just thought, go Christian. I would have been amazed if Mike had been able to Godfather it, and I would be sitting here right now going, bloody hell, Mike, way to go. But good game recognises good game. And Christian, Christian, yeah. Oh, Christian Hubicki. You nailed that. You outplayed Mike White. You outplayed Mike White. Not many people can do that. So Mike might have outplayed Christian last time, but Christian outplayed Mike this time. And I think Christian's outplaying the majority of these people this time. Which begs the question, could Christian Hubicki be the champion of season 50? Ooh, I'm biting my lip as I'm saying that. He could be. Anyone could be, right? I've got my prediction in my mind. I haven't said it outwardly yet. There's been people I've obviously been very high on, and you can probably predict who my prediction is, but I am going to put my head in the clouds. It's out of hope and this very odd gut feeling that I have. And I think it's very important in life. Not always, but at the right time, you trust your gut and the right things can happen. I'm going to trust my gut again. I trusted my gut last season with Savannah, so I'm going to trust it again this season. Head in the clouds. Complete head in the clouds. I'm even scared to say it. I'm going to lean in for this. Why can't I even say this? It's because it feels so unreal. This is the boldest prediction I've ever made on TV Talks with Tom. Oh my God. I think Cirie Fields could win season 50. I said it. Why? I don't know. I just have this feeling in my gut. It's terrifying because it's Cirie. You know, she shouldn't make it to the end. These fools should not let her make it to the end. But if anybody can fool these fools, it's Cirie Fields. I can't believe I just said that. I feel like I should be shaking right now, predicting that. That's scary. Yeah, I'm going to live life on the edge for the next few months. Let's hope Cirie wins season 50. Because if anyone can do it, it's going to be her. I do think Christian is somebody that is going to be great competition along the way. Arguably the best competition along the way. I could see something happen in this season where Christian plays this remarkable game and falls just short. I could see Christian dominating and people going, oh, why did we let him get this far? We got to put Christian into fire making. Because let's be for real. There's not many people who could beat Cirie in the end. But I'm sure Christian could give it a bloody good go, especially with the resume that he's building up already. The way he's cradling people in the hammock, working that jury vote, working that social game. He takes Mike White out. There's that strategic game. And we all know how long that man can stand on a pole with his hands up there while talking to Jeff. I don't think we can forget that. So he can come through on a physical level as well. And for any new Survivor fans out there, there is a motto to this game. It doesn't really get spoken about as much. It gets spoken about at Final Tribal Council usually, but there's 3 components. Outwit, outplay, outlast. Social, strategic, physical. And then luck plays a part as well, of course. We all know that. And if you can cover all components of that, it makes you an all-around player. And the people who can do that, oh, man, I'm thinking of Parvati, I'm thinking of Boston Rob, I'm thinking of Tony. You know, people who've got all angles covered are the best players. Christian has all angles covered. Cirie doesn't have the physical side covered. But I'll tell you what, because she's actually never won an individual immunity, it's very possible that if she wins 1 or 2 this season, it's going to be blown out of the water, right? It's going to be blown. So she can stand there at FTC and go, I won my first ever immunity challenge. Everyone goes, yes, you did, Cirie. Yes, you did. It's one of those things where if Jonathan wins physical, surprise, surprise, right? But if someone who's never done it before does it, it's going to be this moment that we all remember. So everybody has this different path to the end. And that's what makes this game so fascinating. Everybody has to tell a different story. But again, going back to what I was saying about storytelling being the greatest art form, you can have a crappy season on Survivor, but if you tell a good story at the end, it wins you the game. That's how powerful storytelling is. I love storytelling myself. That's why I love coming on here every single week, giving my thoughts and recounting the tales of Survivor or Big Brother or The Traitors. I love it. I love storytelling. It's in my soul. It's in my heart. I love it. I adore storytelling. And the best storytellers are the ones who can win Survivor, and Christian is one of those. So while I do think he is completely a contender for the crown, I think people will realise we got to get rid of him. And they should realise that about Cirie as well. But why my gut is saying otherwise, that Cirie is going to make it to the end and Christian isn't. Sometimes you just got to trust your gut. Two tremendous threats, but I think Cirie can do it, and I think Christian might fall short. But just like the great Enya said, who knows? Say it with me. Only time. And thank you to the 3 people who joined in with that reference. What another fantastic episode of Survivor 50. I know I've said it every single week, but I'm hooked on this season. I really am. I hope Mr. Probst, Mr. Jeff, realises the excitement around this season. You know, just on the social media streets and in discussions I've had with friends and family, I am feeling this, my God, it's season 50, you know, all these great people in there. And, you know, Sam made a fantastic point yesterday. You know, a lot of you folks know Sam, my wonderful spouse. Hey, speaking of my wonderful spouse, Sam, it's our first anniversary this weekend. We're very, very excited. We got married almost a year ago. It's absolutely wild how time flies. Absolutely insane. So we're celebrating this weekend, which we're very much looking forward to. And yeah, I just want to mention something that Sam said, because Sam's been so busy, being a busy little worker bee recently, working so hard, that they haven't been able to come onto the podcast, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys miss Sam, and Sam misses you guys too, but, you know, Sam's been working very, very hard and also studying at the same time, so Sam's done a lot, you know, and but I did have to. Sam said this one thing last night that I want to tell you guys. There is something so amazing about watching all these. This is what Sam said. When they get to the mat at reward, and these people are bantering around with Jeff, and you see Jeff's rigid personality that he's created in the new era break down a bit. You know, he's smiling more, and he's having a laugh more, and it feels like the old days, right? And Sam was making the point that this is what happens when you actually get good characters. Actual characters, people who aren't afraid to rock the boat a bit. Afraid to say something, you know? Not all these people who show up at the mat and go, oh my God, Mr. Jeff, it's been my dream forever to be on Survivor. Oh my God, Mr. Jeff, this is amazing. I can't believe you're standing right in front of me, Jeff. It gets a bit annoying after a while, doesn't it? It's one thing when you've got one person on a season who is like that, because you go, oh, that's fun for them, isn't it? But when every one of these 18 people are saying that, it's annoying. But when you've got people who aren't carbon copies, aren't droids in the Clone Wars, it actually creates something, and whoa, what a concept, authentic. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought having a mix of personalities would be authentic? But Sam is so right. I am in complete agreement. It feels different to what the majority of the new era has felt like. I think there has been great moments in the new era and some great casting choices and some float to the top. But for the most part, it's carbon copies and it gets bloody annoying, right? And seeing all these different people, you've got Coach, you've got Colby, you've got Charlie, you've got Emily, all these people who aren't afraid to have a bit of a laugh and aren't afraid to be themselves and actually not fit into this tiny little box of, I've wanted to be on Survivor my whole life. Oh my God. And then, you know, it's the same thing, different day. I've spoken enough about that. Sam made a great point. Give a round of applause for Sam. Let's go. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I am really enjoying this season. We've got 2 tribal councils next week. It's about time, you know. Like I said, a lot of people here. Not a lot of days. Let's get the ball rolling. Let's get this gameplay moving fast. Because, you know, I'm more of a fan of the 39-day game. But if we are going to do 26, put them through mental hell. You know, make it fast. Make them so they can't take a moment to breathe. Because if you're going to give them 2 weeks less of gameplay to play, at least make it harder for them in some shape or form. I'm very excited for next week. In the promo for next week, it still seems, just as I predicted, that Charlie is stuck on Rizzo, and that's going to be a big storyline next week. Is Charlie going to be able to get Rizzo out, and is it going to dog down his game? Because he is in the majority here with 4 members of the OG Carlo tribe on his New Sealer tribe. Is he throwing this all away by going, let's get Rizzo out? The reality is, you've got Cirie Fields on that tribe. These people shouldn't be doing anything other than trying to get Cirie out. But, you know, I said something on Twitter last week. X, whatever you want to call it. And I stand by this. The first mistake, and I'm so glad people agreed, this tweet got over 2,000 likes, and I was glad it did, because it's a sentiment that rings true, and every time Cirie plays. The first mistake of the Survivor 50 cast was letting Cirie Fields get past a couple rounds. Because you give her an inch, and well, you know the rest. Folks, I don't know why they should be going for Cirie, but Charlie's going for Rizzo. It's all just this, it's the whirlwind, it's forming around Cirie. All these people are starting to take each other out, and they're not looking at Cirie. As she smiles and warms your soul and makes you feel comfortable. It's phenomenal, isn't it? It's almost like magic. Talking, persuading, it's an art form to Cirie. And she's not just taking a class in art or studying art. She's a master of it. She's the professor. Christian isn't the only professor on this island. Professor Cirie Fields. Classes in session. Survivor 50, folks. You're about to be schooled. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope that you're all enjoying my coverage of Survivor 50. I'm having so much fun with this. It's great. And doing this long form video is you know, it's different to what I'm used to as well. You know, talking for an hour. I usually hop on here for 20 minutes for Big Brother, you know. So let me know if you're enjoying these longer videos. I'd love to know if you would like me to keep them up. Maybe that's something we can incorporate as we move into the Big Brother season in the summer. Very excited for that. So let me know if you are enjoying these long videos. Thank you again. I said thank you so many times because I am feeling very appreciative. I don't know, that Zac Brown reward, I don't know, it just had me take stock, just like they did on the tribe as well for a second. It was just it was a very heavily like unedited and raw thing, and it reminded me of old school, so my heart's full right now. Thank you. Said it again. I hope that you're all staying safe, staying positive, and staying healthy out there. And remember to be kind to one another. And I'm going to use some of Zac Brown's words. I ain't worried about it, and you shouldn't be either. But in the meantime, please don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Use your hype points down below. I'd really appreciate that too. But until your next Talking Tribal, I've been your host, Tom Vasey. Good night.